Every one of us carries a picture of God in our hearts. This picture is made up of different things we've heard about God in our childhood, lessons we've learned in Sunday school, ideas from our parents, the way other people talk about God. All of these things form our picture. Some people view God as a distant being who is too busy running the universe, responding to global tragedies, that he doesn't have time to be involved in the everyday affairs of their lives. Other people think of God as some type of celestial Santa Claus who gives you whatever you want. Others view God as a divine scorekeeper. God's keeping score of all the good deeds and the bad deeds you've done. You go to church, 1 point. You yell at your kids getting ready to go to church, lose a point. God is keeping track of everything that you do. Some people have the idea that God is a cosmic police officer, and police officers don't care about how well you keep the law. They are only interested in the lawbreakers. There's no reward for good behavior, but if you step out of line, he's going to make you pay. Another picture people have of God is like 911. You only call when there is an emergency. When there is a crisis and you don't know what to do, you call out to God in prayer, but you never talk to him when things are good. Only when there is a problem that you need God to fix. Others think of God as an angry old man, waiting to pour out his wrath on mankind. They have this picture of God up in heaven with his finger on the judgment button, and all the angels have to talk him down because he's just so angry, right? In the beginning, God created us in his image. And ever since then, we've been creating God in our image. We tend to think of God in human terms, and we do that because we're human. The term is anthropomorphism, the attribution of human characteristics to God. The reason why this is important is because your picture of God will determine your relationship with God. Back at my ministry school, there was a friend of mine named Greg who graduated a year before me. A couple of months after he graduated, he started talking to a girl named Rebecca, who was still in the school. And Rebecca told me that she and Greg were in a relationship and that they were talking on the phone for hours every single night. And I was shocked when she told me, because the entire time that they were in the school together, he was absolutely not interested in her at all. So it was really kind of strange that he was suddenly interested, and now they're in this relationship long distance. It went on for a couple months, but then one weekend, Greg came back into town to go on a date with Rebecca. They got in the car and took off, but within an hour, she got dropped off back at the school. And I said, "What happened?" Rebecca said, "It was the strangest date I've ever been on. He acted very weird the whole time. He wouldn't look at me in the eyes. He hardly say anything to me at all. And then he just dropped me off and said he had to leave." And that was the last time Rebecca heard from Greg. I knew there had to be more to the story, so I called Greg to see what was going on. See, when Greg was in school, he had no interest in dating Rebecca. To put it nicely, she wasn't the most attractive girl. So when he had moved out of town, the two kept in touch through MySpace. Now, if you remember MySpace, it wasn't like Facebook. You didn't post like a ton of pictures. It was just one very small little profile square. Well, Rebecca's profile picture was taken just right, with the perfect angle, with the perfect lighting, and her hair was covering half her face, and the profile picture made her look like a model. For months, this was the only picture that Greg had, was this model picture, and he was pretty attracted to that picture. But when he saw her again in real life, he quickly discovered that she didn't look like that picture. And is Greg a terribly shallow human being? I'll let you be the judge. But this story shows that if you don't have the right picture, you won't have the right relationship. And the same is true with God. The right picture of God will cause you to have the right relationship. But the opposite is also true. The wrong picture of God will cause you to have the wrong relationship with God. If you view God as a distant being who's too busy to be concerned about all the daily affairs of your life, then you won't cast all your cares upon him and trust him with the daily concerns of your life. If you view God as the celestial Santa Claus and you'll only go to him when you want something, you'll have this transactional relationship with God where you tell him the things you want and you expect him to drop them off at your house by a specific date. If you see God as a scorekeeper, then you'll be obsessed with your behavior and your performance. You won't have a relationship with God because you'll be too busy trying to make sure you're doing the good deeds and that those good deeds outweigh your bad deeds. If you view God as a cosmic police officer, then you'll live in this constant fear of God punishing you when you step out of line. You'll live with this nagging feeling that you get when you're driving and a police officer pulls up behind you. You'll think God is only concerned about whether or not you break the rules. And if you see God as a 911 operator, your relationship with God will only exist when there's a crisis. And as soon as the difficulty is resolved, your relationship will be non-existent. If you see God as an angry old man, ready to pour out wrath, then you'll view every bad thing that happens in your life as some sort of divine punishment. You'll attribute every negative circumstance as God's punishment, which will eventually cause you to resent him altogether. Your picture of God will determine your relationship with God. And this is why it's so important to have an accurate understanding of who God is. A.W. Tozer, the great Christian author, said, "What comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us." The picture you have of God is so important because your view of God will impact every area of your life. Your view of God will impact how you treat people, how you handle problems, what you do with your money. It'll affect the view of the life that you are living and the life to come. Your picture of God will affect how you deal with challenges, how you handle pressure, what you do with your time. It'll affect your self-image, your self-esteem, your relationship with others. This picture that we have of God is so important because of what 2 Peter tells us. Grace and peace be multiplied to you in the knowledge of God and of Jesus our Lord. The amount of grace and peace we experience is based on our knowledge of God. This is why it's so important to accurately understand who God is. This week, you're going to discover more about who God really is.